Hi, hello, vanakkam, namaste, bonjour, salam, and welcome back to DevOps Studios. I'm Vasant Shanmugam, and I'm so happy to have you here for our second video. If you missed our first one, no worries, you can check it out later. We talked about the overall DevOps lifecycle and how all the stages fit together. And today we are going to talk about the planning stage, the very first step in your DevOps journey. And this is where everything starts, the ideas, the discussions, and the plans for what to build. And here is the exciting part. I'm going to show you some simple tools that make planning easy and fun for everyone on the team. But wait, there is one tool I'll share later that might just surprise you with how useful it is. And any guesses? So stick around to find out, and hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get started. And this is going to be very interesting. And now let's start with the DevOps life cycle, and we're going to see about the planning stage. So the planning stage of DevOps lifecycle is the foundation of the DevOps lifecycle, and the planning stage focuses on defining the project's scope, its objectives, and workflows to ensure a clear path for successful development and deployment. And in this stage, the collaboration between all the stakeholders, including the business teams, the developers, the testers, and operation teams, is very crucial to align the project goals with organizational objectives. And next, we'll move on to the purpose of the planning stage. So the planning stage aims to define the requirements. So we identify and we document the business needs. We document the technical specifications and the constraints. So this is where the first stage starts with the planning stage, and the very first purpose of it is to aim to define the requirements. And the next part is setting the goals. So we have to establish the measurable objectives for the project, that is the delivery timelines, the performance benchmarks, and also we have to design the workflow. So when I say designing the workflow, so we have to create the processes that streamline the task allocation, the development, and the delivery. And finally, the minimizing of risks. So when I say about minimizing of risks, we have to anticipate for any potential challenges, and we have to develop strategies to mitigate them. And that is all about the purpose of the planning stage. And we'll move on to the activities. So what are all the activities that we do in the planning stage? So we have several activities like gathering requirements, planning features, tasks, and deliverables, collaborate on workflows. And the very first of it is going to be the gathering of requirements. So what happens in the gathering of the requirements stage? Let me just go quick. So in the gathering requirements phase, we engage with the stakeholders, which includes the business leaders, the end users, and the IT teams to understand their needs. So first thing is we have to understand, yeah, we know what are going to do, but still we have to understand what exactly is going to do, are we going to deliver. So for that we have to collect the requirements. So for that, we have to talk to the stakeholders, the business leaders, end users, and IT teams to understand their needs. And also we have to identify the functional and non-functional requirements. For example, the features, the performances, and the security. And next comes the tools. So we have to conduct the brainstorming sessions through various workshops, and we have to gather feedback directly from users and stakeholders through various surveys and interviews. And also we have to document the findings in formats like user stories, by epics or use cases in the requirements document. And that's about the very first step, that is gathering the requirements. And the next part is we have to plan the features, the tasks, and deliverables. So what happens at this stage? So when I talk about the planning of features, so we have to break down the project into smaller manageable tasks like epics. Under the epics, we have to bring multiple stories, and we have to bring it into several sprints in the agile. So that's very important. So you have to remember these keywords. So what you have to do is, or what you're going to do is, you have to break the project, you have to break the features into several manageable tasks like epics, user stories, or sprints in agile. We'll see that in our upcoming videos in the Jira or in Confluence, I mean like in other tools like the planning tools. And then we have to prioritize the tasks based on its business values, the dependencies, and urgency. So we have to define like how urgent is it and what is the priority of it. So we have to define, or we have to prioritize the tasks based on the business values, the dependencies, and the urgency. And then we have to define the deliverables for each phase of the project. So that is all about the planning of features, the tasks, and deliverables. So all this we have to do in this stage. And then a quick example is like a feature like login. A user login could be broken down into tasks like designing the UI, creating a database schema, and developing the authentication logic. So now you have a feature and you have broken them into several user stories, right? And then the tools used for this part is you have to use agile tools to maintain a prioritized list of tasks, and you have to decompose the deliverables into smaller components, which we call it as work breakdown structures. So these are the tools, like we have to create backlogs, and we have to use the work breakdown structures. And now we'll move on to the third activity of the planning stage, that is collaborating on workflows. So what happens during the collaboration on workflows? So we map out the workflows that integrate the development and the operation process. Say for example, we identify the dependencies between teams. And when I talk about the dependency between the teams, so we used to identify, like the testing relies on code from the development. So what happens is take for an example, like once the code is committed, the automated tests should run before deployment to a staging environment. So all we do in this stage is we collaborate on the workflows, and we use to identify the dependencies between teams. So who does the testing, who does the workflow development, and every single attribute, every single activity has to be collaborated, and we have to identify the dependencies, and also we have to map out the workflows which integrates the development and operations processes. And that's all about the collaborating on workflows. And we'll move on to the next topic, which is using the tools for project management. So when I talk about using tools for project management, so the very popular tool for agile project management is the Jira, which helps us to create and track the epics, the user stories, and the tasks. So that is a very useful, and it has actually a very big market share. So we'll see about Jira in a separate set of series of videos. We'll see a lot about Jira. We'll understand how Jira works and everything about it. And then the next part is the Trello. So this is another tool which helps us to visualize the workflows using Kanban boards. And then we have the Azure boards, where we can integrate with Azure DevOps pipelines for end-to-end tracking. And that's, all these tools, the Jira, the Trello, the Azure boards are tools from different vendors. They do their own set of operations, actions, but still at the end of the day, they are useful for project management. The next part is the benefits. Like, what are the benefits of doing this? So why do I need to integrate? Why do I need to create? I need to track the epics and everything. So all these are used for the centralizing the task management, and for doing the to make sure that there is a transparency in the progress tracking, and also for improved collaboration through shared dashboards. So for all these three, benefits, we do have to use these tools for project management. The next part after the project management tools is the risk assessment and mitigation. So what is a risk assessment? What type of risk assessments do we face? So we have to identify for any potential risks, say for example the tight deadlines, the resource limitations. So when we face these kind of tight deadlines or resource limitations, what happens is we do develop mitigation plans, right? We allocate buffer time, we increase the team size, and also for example, a risk could be integrating with third-party apps that may delay the deployment. And what is the mitigation for that? So we conduct early testing and prepare fallback options. So these are the risk assessment and mitigation. So overall, you can see the DevOps lifecycle. So we start with gathering the requirements, and then we moved on to planning the features, the tasks, deliverables, and then we move to collaborating on the workflows, and then we find out the right tools for the project management, and then we move on to the risk assessment and the mitigations. So on doing all of these, what are the outcomes do we get? So by the end of the planning stage, the following should be in place. Say for example, a clear roadmap. So when I say a clear roadmap, a timeline, or a roadmap that outlines the major milestones, the sprints and deadlines, because all we do is like during the requirements gathering, so we used to collect all these, and then we are planning the features, the tasks and deliverables. So we do have a timeline, right? So we know like when are we going to complete, and we know what are all the things we're going to complete, because we have a timeline, we have a roadmap, and where we're going to outline the major milestones, the features, the sprints and the deadlines. So for example, a feature A will be developed in sprint 1 and it will be tested in sprint 2, and then we have a defined backlog. So we have talked about backlog in this DevOps lifecycle, right, in stage in the planning one. So a prioritized list of tasks or user stories which are ready for implementation. Say for example, a backlog item, say like as a user I want to reset my password so I can regain access to my account. So this can be a set of tasks, a set of user stories for implementation. So that can be defined in your backlog. And establishing the metrics. So you have to define your success metrics to measure the progress and outcomes. Say for example, I deliver sprint 1 with 0 critical bugs and 95% unit test coverage. And finally, the shared understanding. So all the stakeholders understands the project goals, the timelines and their roles. So by doing all these, what are the benefits do we get? So alignment. So the first thing is very important, the alignment. So we ensure that everyone is involved, is working towards the same goal. And efficiency is where we reduce the delays and miscommunication during development. And predictability is where we help anticipate the challenges and streamline workflows. And finally, the accountability, where we assign clear ownership of tasks and deliverables. So by meticulously planning at this stage, the very first stage, the subsequent stages of the DevOps lifecycle can proceed smoothly, minimizing the risks and maximizing the efficiency. And now we'll move on to the tools. So I wanted to discuss about 3 tools. The majority of the tool, the majority of the market are using these tools: the Slack, the Jira, and the Confluence. So we'll see them in a short break. Hi subscribers, this is me, your son Sharmagam. I'm the one who is talking to you about the DevOps lifecycle, the plan, the project management, and I'm the one who is running the DevOps studio. The reason I took a break is all I wanted to tell you is please do subscribe to our DevOps studio channel, where you're going to learn more about DevOps practices, DevOps tools, and give a thumbs up if you like this video, hit the like button, share the video with your friends, your peers, your colleagues who are interested to learn DevOps. And don't forget to ask your questions, or if you have any comments or if you have any feedback, please do add that in the comment section. Thank you. And yeah, now you can watch the rest of the video. Thank you. So now we'll watch about the 3 tools, the planning tools, which I wanted to discuss with you. And they are used in the planning stage. And the tools are Slack, Jira, and Confluence. And they are the essential tools which are commonly used in the planning stage of the DevOps lifecycle. And each tool, the tool like Slack, Jira, and Confluence serves a unique purpose that works together to improve the communication, collaboration, and organization. So the very first tool is the Slack. So I'll explain you about the Slack here. And Slack is mainly a communication and a collaboration platform that facilitates real-time messaging and information sharing. And how does it fit in the planning stage? So the first thing is real-time comms, real-time communication. So teams use Slack to discuss the project requirements, brainstorming ideas, and for making any quick decisions. And the next thing is channel organization. So we create dedicated channels for specific projects, teams, or topics. For example, project planning or like team QA. And also we can help separate conversations and avoid clutter. We can create one-to-one conversations. We can share our screens. So all these are possible using Slack. And then the next part is integration with tools. So by integrating seamlessly with tools like Jira, the Confluence, and others to receive notifications and updates. And for an example, so you can automatically post the update in Slack when a new Jira ticket is created or when a Confluence document is updated. And for file sharing, so you can share files like requirement documents, diagrams, or presentations for instant feedback. And we do have bots and reminders where we can use the Slack bots to automate reminders for meetings or deadlines. And we can use, for an example, like you can set a reminder for backlog grooming session. So the benefit of using Slack is We can speed up communication and decision making. We can centralize the conversations, reducing reliance on emails. We can also increase flexibility across teams, and these are the advantages, and these are the ways where Slack fits into the planning stage. And now we'll move to the next item, which is Jira. So Jira is another most critical and an important tool that's been used in the planning stage, and Jira is a project management tool which is primarily used for agile development, and it helps manage tasks, track progresses, and also it also helps to organize the workflows. So how does Jira fits into the planning stage? So the very first part of it is the backlog management. We can create and maintain a backlog of user stories, tasks, and epics. So like I told you, we can create user stories, we can create features, we can create backlogs, user stories, and lots of things can be done using Jira. Mainly, I would say for the backlog management. For an example, like a user story, as a user, I want to reset my password is added to the backlog and prioritize. So this is just an example. We do have lots and lots of other examples that helps you to work on the backlog management. And then the agile boards. So by using Kanban or Scrum boards to visualize the workflows and to track the progress of tasks. And then for an example, we can move the tasks through columns like to do, in progress, and done. So we do have several tasks as well, I mean like columns as well. Right before you even start a story, it will be in to do status, and then once it is moved to in progress, which means you're working on it, and then after that we'll move it for review, for request, and then finally we'll move it to done once you find that it is completed. And then the sprint planning, so we can plan and assign tasks for each sprint, and then teams can estimate story points and allocate the resources efficiently. And then the tracking and reporting, where we can track the project progress using burn down charts, velocity reports, and any other analytics. For example, a burn down chart shows the team's progress in completing the sprint task. And also we can see like there are like several charts we have in the Jira board. We'll talk about them one by one. And then the integration. So by integrating with Confluence for detailed documentation and Slack for instant updates. So the benefit of using Jira is it provides us a very clear structure for managing tasks and tracking progresses, and we can encourage transparency and accountability. And also it supports agile methodologies like Scrum and Kanban. And then the last tool which we're going to discuss in this video is the Confluence. So Confluence is a knowledge management and documentation tool that helps teams to create, share, and organize content. So that's the a quick brief about the tool Confluence. So how Confluence fit in the planning stage? So like I told you, it's a knowledge management tool. So the main part is the documentation. So it stores project requirements, the workflows, and other documentations in a centralized space. So we can actually create the project requirements, we can create the workflows, we can use the tools in it, and then we can also add other documentations in a centralized space. So for example, we can write a detailed product requirements document, the PRD, or we can write the workflow guidelines. And when it comes to collaboration, so we can the teams can actually collaboratively edit and comment on pages. So for example, if I have created a page and if I have to make any changes, and if my team who reads through it or who reviews it can add his comments. For example, a stakeholder reviews a requirement document and leaves his feedback directly on the Confluence page. And when it comes to templates, yes, we can use predefined templates for meeting notes, project plans, and sprint retrospectives. For example, we can use a project plan template to outline the objectives, the timelines, and the resources. And when it comes to integration, we can link Jira issues to Confluence pages for additional context. For example, a Confluence page which details the user requirements links to the corresponding Jira tickets. And finally, the knowledge base. So these are like searchable. So when I say knowledge base, they are like searchable knowledge base. We can quickly search for relevant documentation and past discussions. For example, we can look up for previous sprint reviews or archived project plans, or for any other documents, which someone has created. We can just search, like how we can search in Google. So we can just type those words, any keywords, and it will actually bring down all the documents which are relating to it. And then the benefits. So these actually centralizes the documentations, which makes it easy to find and update information, and also it enhances the collaboration with inline commenting and editing. And finally, it provides a permanent record of decisions and plans. So how they all work together, the Slack, the Jira, and the Confluence. So the Slack, for example, the team discussions and sharing updates about tasks or requirements in real time. For example, a developer flags a requirement for clarification in the project planning channel. And Jira, on the other hand, where we can the tasks are discussed in the Slack, which are added to Jira stories, epics or tasks. For example, we can add user authentication feature, which becomes a Jira task with specific details. And when it comes to Confluence or documentation, we can use Confluence to document the discussion or task details comprehensively, where we can, for example, we can document the design for the authentication features in Confluence and link it to the Jira ticket. So with that, I come to an end of this video. And that's it for today's video on the planning stage of the DevOps lifecycle. So I hope you find this useful and you have learned something new. So remember, the planning stage is where all the magic happens, and with the right tools, it can be a game changer for your projects. So if you enjoyed this video or learned something useful, don't forget to hit the like button, share it with your friends, and drop a comment below. I would like to hear your thoughts or questions. And make sure to subscribe to DevOps Studios and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on the next video. And we are going to dive deeper into the DevOps lifecycle, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. And thank you so much for watching. Once again, I'm Vasant Shanmugam, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care and keep exploring DevOps. Bye, vanakkam, and see you soon.